Greetings, everyone. Guess what today is? Bum, 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 ba da bum. Anyway, you know the song. Around my house, I do have a bunch of like Star Wars related things. Like, this is one of those prototype edition Chewbacca's. There's even like an old game here from 1977. Get a close-up look at that. That's the X-35 Landspeeder. If you want to see another version of that, well, of course, it exists in a Hot Wheels car. So Star Wars is going to be today's theme on May the 4th. You know what? Instead of using that, let's go with this. This is the BunnyPen, and I'm going to use this to do today's drawing. So I'm going to start off with using red, and I'm going to zoom in on this a little bit. Come on. Let's go to here. Let's see if we can get today's drawing done. So the plan is to draw probably one of the most famous movie villains of all time. And maybe ramble on a little bit about what I think is going on with that villain. Now, just from the few little things that you've seen me do right here, you probably recognize who this represents. Of course, I'm doing my version of Darth Vader. Anakin Skywalker. Now, I do have a problem with how some people look at Darth Vader as being just like this really cool looking character and all that kind of stuff. In my mind, Darth Vader is an irredeemable character. I know that sounds outrageous because, at the end of Return of the Jedi, it seems like, he becomes a Force ghost, and yeah, it almost seems like all is forgiven. Well, I don't think that's really the case. I think what happens is, in Luke's mind, he gets to look at his father a little bit differently. And I think that's sort of the difference of how he should be kind of perceived. But I don't think he should be forgiven or redeemed for who he became, if that makes sense. Now, let's see here. Now, obviously, this is not a typical looking Darth Vader. Okay. And I'm doing this all in red because, well, I kind of have a little bit of a plan as well. We'll see how this goes, though. It's weird to sketch this kind of stuff out. Now, Darth Vader, in my mind, was very much underestimated by those who kind of like worked in the Empire, if that makes sense. So, like, number one, I think a lot of people that were in the Empire didn't realize that they were the bad guys. And the other thing is, it'd probably been like 20 years for a lot of them, since the Clone Wars and Order 66, where the Jedis and, well, the known users of the Force were basically eliminated. So the history of Anakin Skywalker is kind of dead. Most people didn't know that he became Darth Vader. So that was a hidden history of sorts. The other thing is, well, like I said, they didn't really believe in the power of the Force. So when Darth Vader would show up, they knew that he was somehow a big deal in a way, because he was given pretty much diplomatic immunity when he would be on board their vessels. They knew that somehow he was some kind of an enforcer for the Emperor, for Palpatine. There were people that would, to his face, they would mock him. And of course, they'd pay a terrible price for doing such a thing. But yeah, they would mock him to his face. And it's almost like they didn't realize that this was like the second in command in the Empire. He had his own special TIE fighter. Anyway, I just think that the way they viewed Darth Vader was a little bit different within the Empire. They didn't, like, he didn't really have a history. I think in a lot of ways they might have even looked at him like the same way they would have 20 years beforehand with General Grievous. I think they might have considered him to be just like some sort of like Empire tough guy. That's just my own sort of take on him. On Darth Vader. And much like, General Grievous, he would have been seen as being more machine than being, like living being, like a cyborg. But yeah, just using the Force to choke people out. So yeah, anyway, just rambling. Oh, let's see here. It's funny, a couple of videos back, I did a drawing of Ghost from the MCU's Thunderbolts, a movie I haven't seen yet. I probably will see it at some point in the near future. I typically see the Marvel movies when they come out. Of course, Disney owns Lucasfilm now. I'm not sure why I chose to use Mickey Mouse for this. I think it might be because I really haven't seen them use Mickey in this way. And I don't know if they would have a grand appreciation for it either, truth be told. But in my mind, I'm calling this particular version of Darth Vader, I'm going to call him Darth Vermin. I think that'd be, because I mean, he's not going to keep the same, he's not going to be Darth Mickey or anything like that. There'd be no attachment to the past. If Mickey would ever go to the dark side, which, why would he? I'm sure in their own sort of like folklore way, they would rather him be like Kenobi or even more like Luke. Maybe I'm wrong. What am I missing from that? Well, he has kind of like a, I'm going to call it almost like a loincloth, as well as these sort of like panel flaps off of his uniform. Have a ring to hold the lightsaber when not in use. I think, yeah, let's see how much room I got. Now he'd be missing a lot of his natural parts, and he needed that suit to survive. So he was led to believe, I think a lot of that suit was meant to kind of keep him restricted and angry and in pain. So I don't think his suit really got a lot of upgrades over the years. Although the character seemed to be pretty good with technology. I mean, he built his own lightsabers and that sort of thing over the years. Even as a kid, I think he was always pretty good with technology. Let's see here. Oh yeah, well, let's put a cape on. I feel like capes are best on windy days, kind of like Beyonce's hair. So I'm going to have this cape kind of flowing like Batman's cape, although not like Batman. Now, the reason why I chose red was so that I could kind of fake my way through the glow of this lightsaber. At least that's the plan in my head. Yeah, that's not so bad. For a doodle, next on the BunnyPen, let's go to black. Yes. See if this works out. Okay. So anything that's going to be close to the lightsaber, I'm going to leave red. Anything that might pick up from underneath a certain spot, I'm going to leave red as well. So like the bottom of the ears, for example, the part of the visor of the helmet, that kind of thing. At least that's the plan in my head. And I'll shade whatever I can after. This part of the helmet will go black. So yeah, no, getting back to the concept that he's an irredeemable character. Well, he'd have been responsible for the demise of countless individuals, and as well as, like, well, the torture of individuals. He wasn't a very good dude, is kind of what I'm getting at. And he spent like 24 years basically being a very terrible being. He was responsible for what happened to the younglings with Order 66. Anyway, no, not everything can be forgiven with Darth Vader. Just because he went out of his way to protect his son in the last, 15 minutes of his life. Not a good guy. So as I said, I'm using a trick of light, basically. For the top side of things, I'm going to leave in black ink, and the underside in red. I think I got the button scheme right. So 3 narrows on the left, 2 on the right here, and then 4 kind of underneath there. These would be more buttons to control his breathing apparatus and what other parts of his suits. This part of his boots can be black. So yeah, that's the plan, as I said, with how I'm treating the lighting. Okay. But he is dressed all in black, so I'm going to try my best to let that be seen as well. I kind of like using this type of pen because I don't always go with cross hatching. I find that this kind of suits a bit of the style that I would use anyway. Now let's go with a bit of shading as if it's being tossed away from the boot a little bit. Same on this side. And back here you'd have a little bit back here too. A little bit back here. And a bit of a glow of red on the ground. Now for fun, I'm going to put in some green, this button here, maybe a button there, button here, button here. I think that's not so bad. Shade here. There would be some back here. Okay. Well, I think that's kind of the main run of it. We'll darken in some of this just a little bit with his eyes like jaws. I do think he needs to be just a little bit darker. I don't think he's built for stealth. It's just I'm really letting the darkness fold in on him. I should just a little bit more. Okay. I think this time I might be kind of as done as I feel like being. It'd be neat to do perhaps the background, because I think having proper contrast would be ideal between the character. And perhaps if I would have picked a different way of doing this, I would have used like construction paper or whatever. But since my sketchbook doesn't have black pages, this is what I'm going with. All right, well, I think that's going to be it for what I got going on with the BunnyPen. All right, folks. Well, at nearly 30 minutes, I think it is almost time for me to put down the pen. Let's put a little bit in here. Maybe just a bit more shadow there. Let's go with some on the helmet, more on the helmet. Okay, well, Sometimes the BunnyPen needs a bit of a twist. As I said, I don't think calling him Darth Mickey makes sense. I think that's it. As I said, it would be neat to have like, a dark background, and that way it makes sense for him to glow the way he does. I almost hate to see or leave it like that. Maybe if I just do a little bit. See if I regret this. Maybe I should leave it alone. That's always the difficult part, isn't it? Well, we'll see what happens here. It's funny to think about the Force being this energy that people could tap into. That would be all around you, but at the same time, some of it would be kind of dark forces too. So it's just energy. It's an interesting take on things. Sometimes you can walk into a room and you can tell that someone was arguing with somebody. I'm going to flip this upside down. Of course, this is making the video longer. If I were crafty, I would have said, hey, I'm going to do a 2-part video, but I did not. Instead, I allowed myself to just finish this in one sitting anyway. Now, there are experts out there who've read all the related literature and books and magazines and played all the games and all that kind of stuff. I'm not that much of an expert. And when it comes to the movies and the TV shows, I've seen pretty much all of them. I've even seen the Star Wars Christmas special that came out a very long time ago, as well as the Ewoks cartoon. I'll have to talk to Kieran about that, see what he remembers. Kieran is an expert in this world and the folklore. I'm just going to take care of the top part of this. And when that's done, then I'll be done. And maybe at some point in the future, I'll do a fancier version of this. But again, this is the fun stuff that you do in your sketchbook. So if you're drawing along, thanks for hanging out. If you're just watching and listening to me ramble on, thanks for hanging out. Hopefully, yeah, you're drawing along with me. All right. After all of that, that is what we are finishing it with, I think. My take on Darth Vader. That's Darth Vermin. And I hope everyone has a wonderful day, and may the 4th be with you. Ciao for now, folks.